For this opening session, we invited some researchers that are very important and contributed greatly to the existence of this project. And I will start by also mentioning them. So we will have Maria José Magalhães, who is the coordinator of this project. We will have Helena Pereira, president of the board of directors of the institution who funded this research, which funded this research. We will also have with us João Salgado, Vice-Reitor of Research of the University of Maia, one of the institutions involved in this project. We will also have Marta Santos, that is representing the board of the Faculty of Psychology and Educational Sciences from the University of Porto, another institution involved in this research. And finally, we will have Anália Torres, Director of the Interdisciplinary Center for Gender Studies, also an institution, a center, a research center involved in this project. So I will start by saying that this was a project funded to an NGO, UMAR, Alternative and Responsible Women's Association, that is a Portuguese feminist NGO, and that I'm sure you all know, and Maria José will present a bit in more detail. So without further delay, I will give the floor to Maria José Magalhães, and thank you very much once again all for being here. If you want to open your camera, please feel free to do so. And of course, you will have the time to make all the questions to the project in the next session. Thank you very much for being here. Maria José, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning to everybody. I apologize if the internet is not working well, but I hope so. Thank you all to come and to participate in this international conference of the project Social Haters about the hate speech among young people. I also, first of all, I would like to thank the Portuguese Scientific Foundation for Science and Technology, Professor Helena Pereira, and thank not only because of the funding, but also because Professor Helena Pereira is here. Once again, thank you very much. And I hope FCT will fund other projects on hate speech, because it's becoming increasingly problem. I also want to thank Professor Anália Torres of the Interdisciplinary Center on Gender Studies of the University of Lisbon for her participation here in the open session, but also the participation of CIEG, that is my research center, of my heart, and also as a partner in this project. I also want to thank Professor João Salgado of the University of Maia, also a partner of this project, and also participating in this open session. My colleague Marta Santos, Professor Marta Santos from the Faculty of Psychology and Science of Education. Thank you for being here, and thanks also to our director that cannot be here because she has another commitment today. I also want to thank everybody and all the wonderful team of this project. Also to the UMAR, the coordinator of this project, research project, for the importance of this project to struggle for a society with respect and with citizenship and respectful relations among people. I would like also to thank the authors that will present here in this international conference about this important topic, and also for the team I will name Kátia Pontedeira, Camila Iglesias, Olga Sousa Cruz, Margarida Pacheco, that are the researchers of this project, but also other researchers that are here and the other that cannot be here, that has to be named as Clara Oliveira, Ana Teresa Dias, Margarida Maia, among others. Thank you all for your wonderful work. Just some words about hate speech. The team will present the results of the project, and I think that are important findings that must be reflected upon, because we have to continue not only to research how and what kind of hate speech we can find among young people, but also how we can prevent that. It's really important. Hate speech consists in expressions that defend and incite to actions against people, against other people of other group, that intend to discriminate, to hostilize, to violent, to diminish or to humiliate persons attempting against their dignities. This is one form of violence against certain people that perpetrators intend to construct as inferior human beings. The final intent is to dehumanize, to diminish the humanity of the certain people and groups. The most victims, again, that are targeted by hate speech are usually conquered people by the colonial or exploitative actions, racialized people, women, LGBTQI+ people, poor people, immigrants, people of other religions different from the majority religion in a certain context, and people also from different political ideologies. Hate speech has usually, they have many functions, but it has three main functions. So the first main function is the dehumanization, the diminishing of the humanity of certain groups and people, as I've said. They intend to degrade, to reaffirm the privilege of the conqueror, of the domination, of the exercising power, to maintain the advantage of their privileged position. But the second function is to send the message to other people. They think they share the same ideology as them, and to say to the other people that they are not alone. So we have a group, we have many people thinking with us, is some kind of building, belongings, feeling, some kind of fraternity, building this illusion that's about homogeneous thinking about the human being. So this second function is very important, to think how to prevent this hate speech in order to not spread and not this feeling of fraternity. The third function, and deriving from the first, is to build a wall between us and them, to build and to verbalize and to put in action this othering of the other person, to distance, to make the distance and make the frontier between us, that we are the best, we are the human beings, the superior, against the others, against them. This is the three main functions of the hate speech. And that's because of that, because a hate speech has many ramifications. It's not only the hate speech, but also those ramifications that must alert us to research and to find ways to prevent both the hate speech, the expressions, and also the spread of this form of violence, and of course to support victims of this this form of violence. So thank you again for your presence. Thank you for the work, and I hope the conference will go well and we get in the end good results, good findings, and good ideas to prevent hate speech in Portugal and around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, José, for providing this context on the topic of hate speech that is so important for all of us to exactly know what we will be talking about in the next 2 days. So thanks for that background knowledge and context to the project. I will now give the floor to Professor Helena Pereira, that, as I've previously presented, is President of the Board of Directors of the Foundation for Science and Technology. So, Professor Helena, if you would like to have the floor, thank you very much.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for inviting me to be here in this opening session of this event. Hello to my colleagues here in this opening session, and hello to everyone who is listening, who is participating in this conference. It is really a pleasure to be here. Speaking from the Foundation of Science and Technology, we are very proud that we can help our knowledge society to develop projects and in fact create knowledge on important subjects. The Foundation for Science and Technology, FCT, as we call it by the nickname in Portugal, FCT, is proud to have participated in these last 25 years in the building up of the science community in Portugal. In fact, in our country, we have, along these years, we have increased all our indicators related to science, whatever indicator it is. And we think that our funding agency is as a contribution to that increase and improvement of our science ecosystem. Well, what do we know? I will speak a little bit to you on the activity of a national funding agency for science, because in fact it gives the reference to all our science and research activity. Well, our national agency funds the various parts of our science ecosystem. It funds the infrastructures, the research units. They are the building blocks of our system. It is in the research units of various types that research is carried out. It is there where our researchers work, develop their projects. It is there where our PhD students also work. So this is one first and a very important pillar of funding for FCT. It is the research infrastructures. By the way, FCT commemorates this year 25 years of activity. So we are celebrating this anniversary this year by promoting different events along the year, one each month, with different thematics, also across the country. We have already 4 sessions. We will have The next dedicated session will be at the end of this month, related to a subject which is certainly also of interest to you, which is related to women in science. Of course, this annual event of our Portuguese Science in Ciência, the Ciência conference, will take place next week. And it is under the motto of the 25 years of FCT. But well, so we, commemorating this anniversary, we also tried, and we are doing it, of making information public to everyone. And one of the informations I think it is of interest to everyone is to have a synthesis of which are the research units in Portugal. So if you go to our site, you will see that we have what we call an atlas of research units. We have in a total 312 research units, and there you can see, organized by thematic area, scientific area, you can see which which research units work in Portugal, and a brief description on one of them. So apart from funding these infrastructures, FCT also funds people, researchers, by what we call the scientific employment researchers, as well as the initial advanced formation at PhD level. So we give every year many PhD scholarships for pursuing doctoral degrees. And of course, we we also fund projects like this one. And of course, international cooperation and all this cross-sectional activities like the advanced computing, the communications. So we are easily communicating between us now in these ways, because also there is a service in FCT who is working on this transversal communications. But of course, so FCT funds all these mechanisms, as we call them, and of course we have to support all scientific areas, and we do that. All the scientific areas are open to funding, and we always fund projects in the same way. It is an open call. Everyone with certain rules, of course, can apply. There will be an external evaluation. So we follow these, let's call, normal international rules of quality and transparency for many years already. But we started something new, which is increasing our support, not only to these general calls for in all scientific areas, but also supporting some thematic areas that we consider strategic for our development, both of knowledge or in response to societal problems or needs. Of course, the pandemic helped us, in fact, to see how important it is to have these focused, targeted actions, and we increasingly devoted some of our funding and some of our effort to fund thematic, strategic areas. Well, and this is the case here. The social haters, this hate speech is, of course, an important area nowadays in our society. We cannot ignore it, and it is a complex issue, of course, that tackles with different aspects and needs to be researched. No, we have no doubts about that. And of course, the introduction of all the technological introduction of all this social media has favored this speech. So unfunded, primary, quick response to a stimulus, and in many cases it is really for bad reasons, as my predecessor speaker already explained very well. So this is clearly an area of strategic importance for the building up of our knowledge, and we hope that by increasing research in this area, we will be able to understand the phenomenon, or at least to contribute to understand the phenomenon, and maybe to devise some ways to counterbalance it. So we are very happy that we had such a good response of our community in these strategic calls. We had also, for instance, some strategic calls for projects in themes related to the pandemic, for instance. The response was also great. But here in this case, I think this is a really important theme, and I thank you all for all the effort and enthusiasm that you have put in developing the work, and now in organizing this session. Thank you, all the organizers. Thank you, all the speakers, all the participants, and it will be a pleasure to see your results. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Helena, for your explanation on how the funding scheme works, and that is an opening call on several topics, which is really and was really a starting point for us as research team to formally start investigating hate speech, and in this case, online hate speech. But it was only a starting point, because we developed so many networks and so many contacts that we will definitely wanted to continue this work, and perhaps internationally. So thank you for that. I will now give the floor to Professor João Salgado, Vice-Reitor for Research of ISMAI, University of Maia in Portugal. Professor, please have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, all. I hope you are hearing me. I first want to compliment Professora Maria José Magalhães as the coordinator of the project. And it's always quite a burden, a privilege, but also a burden to be the main researcher and the main contributor to this kind of endeavor. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank FCT because it is paramount in our scenario. It helped me individually and institutionally to develop research activities, and right now as the Vice-Reitor for Research at the University of Maia, previously ISMAI, I always have that in mind, that FCT is really a strong structure that feeds our endeavors. I started as a PhD with a PhD grant some years ago, more than 30 years ago, and it was really important for the change in my career. So thank you. And I also want to thank all and praise all institutions, well, all of them, to be part of this project and to have this cooperation, which is very healthy, to have different institutions cooperating for the same goals. And of course, all the speakers, all the participants. It is a privilege, I have to say this, it is a privilege to University of Maia to participate in this project. And when I was invited by you to be part of this panel, I went to look a little further about the project and to read more about, I've heard about it, but I knew about it, but I was curious about it. And it immediately remembered a small text I wrote some years ago when I was worried about social speech about elections. So I wrote something in a blog that actually only has one text. I was, I would say, a frustrated and failed blogger, but I decided to reflect and to share my reflections on the text. And if you don't mind, I will share a little bit of that text with you. It was written in Portuguese, but I kind of made a translation to English of it. So it goes like this: hate is in the loose. And now that I've said that, please don't look elsewhere. I know that's it's a tendency to look elsewhere. We don't like to think about hate. We can even get caught in the shock of its impact. But when it comes to feel it completely, thinking about it and transforming it, well, that's much more difficult. The phenomenon, however, has gained a new face in this contemporary world. First, there was the possibility of rapid escalation in speedy and impulsive email responses back in the 90s. Then there were also online comments and impulsive reactions. Anonymity, favored expression, ease of response made impulses more difficult to manage, and more extreme opinions became sometimes dominant because inflamed opinions are more easily energized to be written down and published. And then the social networks emerged. And while we ended up finding friends that we haven't seen in 30 years, hate also increased. Cyberbullying came, the spread of stalking, insults, false profiles. More than the trolls, individuals who are usually hidden by false profiles aim to create discomfort in others. But there are also those who assume their identity, their activity varies. They can engage in online games to provoke and drive children to despair, exposing them images of them crying so that intimidation is completed. And there are those who spread rumors about people's lives, and some get involved in gross altercations with public personalities. The variety is great, and there are several serious psychological threats in this phenomenon. This is bad and affects the private life of many people. However, the phenomenon is not new. The human species is known for both its creative, but also its destructive abilities. Eros and Thanatos said, Freud, anger, when misguided, feeds hatred, misunderstandings, and violence. Anger, said some psychodynamic some decades ago, may be necessary in order for humans to become full individuals and separated from the others. However, when this anger is left free, without rein or direction, and above all, without letting the humanity of the other to be seen, without the possibility of love, the possibility of empathy, when that occurs, violence happens. It always happened, by the way. Let, for example, the slaves, women, homosexuals, transsexuals, or even in other historical times, those who arguably were possessed by the devil, or even today, the schizophrenics, or the political prisoners, and even entire groups of people that are left at the mercy of devastating hatreds. If they talk to us, they said, they can tell us their stories, and the stories are about being victims of this hate. So I praise the organizers of this project for embracing this challenge. It touches, to me, a very significant societal issue that needs serious research and serious intervention. That will be important to have what I would call a more open dialogical society that respects and values differences. So thank you all for your effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, for reading this reflection on hate speech that is so important and temporary. It still makes sense, even though it was written some years ago. I believe I understood it correctly. It's still it's valid. Thank you very much. I will now give the floor to Professor Marta Santos, that is here representing the board of the faculty. Professor Marta, if you want to take the floor, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I would like to begin by presenting my compliments to Professor José Magalhães, coordinator of the Social Haters Project, and of course her team. I present my compliments also to the organizing committee of this international conference and to the distinguished members of this opening session and to all that are listening to us. On my behalf and behalf of the director of the Faculty of Psychology and Educational Sciences, I would like to thank you for inviting us. It is indeed with a great pleasure that I participate at this moment. The timeliness of the theme of this project, which combines hate speech with the health crisis that we continue to experience, is undeniable. We know of the extensive efforts that the European Union have been made to eliminate hate speech and other kinds of manifestations of intolerance faced by a person or a group on grounds of race, color, language, religion, citizenship, national or ethnic origin, sexual orientation, and gender identity, or others. However, hate speech has been said before, has not been eliminated, but it has also been on the rise, especially when we look at online hate speech. Combating hate speech is not an easy task. This is why research such as the one conducted in the scope of this project is so important, as it makes use of several forms of data collection, from the questionnaire aimed at young Portuguese people to a systematic analysis of the posts made on social network TikTok. The establishment of international partnership, in this case, the inclusion of researchers from Spain and Italy, is also a very relevant aspect of this project, because we know that there are major differences between European countries in regard to the legal procedures that address hate speech. Indeed, only the Netherlands and Croatia specifically define hate crime and hate speech within the criminal codes, although many countries describe and criminalize hate-based acts, for instance, in the areas of employment, media, and education. There is also a low or absence rates of criminal reports and sanctions regarding hate speech, which suggests that, one, hate speech is difficult to detect, and two, hate speech is hardly considered as a crime by citizens. The awareness campaigns proposed in the sphere of this project, the training for teachers on these issues, and publications such as the booklet presenting the Social Haters Project are, for my opinion, essential contributions to the necessary combat against hate speech. In the same sense, the organization of this international seminar with important discussion on hate speech among young people in Portugal, Spain, and Italy, along with other relevant studies that complement this discussion, for instance, the prevention of hate speech in schools and universities, and the reflection about how we can increase citizens' commitments against online hate speech, is an excellent initiative to disseminate research in a way to reach a wider audience. It is undeniably an important contribution to a necessary collective mobilization about this theme. The Faculty of Psychology and Educational Sciences has been on the side of those who fight discrimination and prejudice, and is therefore proud of the research this work has done on these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Marta. It's with great pleasure that we hear these words and all the mentions to the topic and to the project. Thank you. I will now give the floor to Professor Anália, least but not last, very important to us as well, of course. So if you want to have the floor, Professor, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be really here with all of you. I want to salute everybody, but especially Maria José Magalhães for the initiative of the proposal of this project. And of course, Professor Helena Pereira, it's always a pleasure to be with you, Professor. FCT is really a very important organization. And of course, SIEG is a partner in this project, and SIEG has been benefiting from the support of FCT, as it was graded as excellent twice by FCT. It's really a pleasure to, and let me tell you personally that I want to thank you so much, because you're really present and your activity is so wide, and you really have the good taste to be with us and to support our activity, which is a great pleasure. And especially in this area of gender equality, you have been a very important support to us. So that besides this general idea of saluting Professor Helena Pereira, I want also to salute Professor João Salgado and Marta Santos, and of course everybody from the team of this research project, and everybody that's present to participate in this very important conference on the topic of social hate in media and concerning young people. I just want also especially to because we have this session is long, I will not talk about the content of the thing. It has all been already well expressed in terms of content, what really the relevance of this kind of and the social impact that is expected from this type of projects. But I just want from my heart to say and to finish that it has been a privilege to have Maria José Magalhães with a vibrant activity and with a vibrant
Sorry, Professor, now you are muted.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay. Yeah. No, it was just when I was about to say how happy we were to count with Maria José Magalhães since the first moment of when SIEG was created. She's an integrated member and a very relevant member of SIEG. So SIEG is 10th anniversary this year, and it has been really a pleasure and a privilege to count with Maria José Magalhães in all our path until now. So thank you very much to all of you, and I hope that the conference goes as well, and the results will have have impact in our society, in our young people, and in all our activities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Anália, for all your words, and congratulations for the 10th anniversary of SIEG, and also to the 45th anniversary of FCT. So congratulations, and I hope that all the commemorations are successful and for many years from now on as well. So without any further delay, I think I can give it for an end to this opening session, but inviting everyone to remain in this room, virtual room, to continue with the presentation of the results. And once again, thanking to all the participants from the opening session. For the introduction of the project, we have a PowerPoint that will be available on the website afterwards. So don't worry too much if you don't catch all the details from these slides. We will divide the presentation of the results in two presentations. The first that we will do before the break will be on the prevalence and impact of online hate speech. And this presentation will be done by me and Olga, but of course we acknowledge all the team of the project here on the left side of the slide. And for the, let me just there. For the institutions that are part of this research, we already named them all. We are fortunate to have all the institutions present in this conference. It was a great pleasure to work with all of you and with this research team and other researchers that were also involved in this project, but not during the whole extension of the project. But we would like to acknowledge and thank the contributions, not only of the institution, but also, of course, of the people involved. So the Social Haters Project, as it was described, was a project that was funded by a national funding scheme, FCT, and it was funded for within a specific call for projects and for projects that were short in duration. So the initial duration of the project was 10 months, that were then extended to 13 months. And the aim of the project was to respond, to contribute to the identification of the prevalence of online hate speech among young people in Portugal, and to deepen the understanding and the knowledge and reflections on the impact of such hate speeches on young people. And the project also focused on how has the pandemic changed not only these hate speeches, but also the impact these hate speeches have had for the young people, especially because we know that during the pandemic, we have an increased use of online social media and online spaces. And given that increase, the potential impact of these type of discourses that are hatred is also potentially higher, as we expected. And also, we not only want to contribute to research, which is already very important, but we also want to contribute to what can we do to stop hate speech and what can we do on the level of prevention. So that was why we included some activities that are related to prevention of hate speech among young people, including a training session with professionals. That is more than a training session. It's like also a workshop, because we also want to learn from them what can we do to stop hate speech online and to prevent hate speech. So these were the objectives that I basically explained them all already. Just another thing that we wanted to understand is how do these hate speeches spread in social media, in social networks. So we conducted a pilot study on TikTok that had the purpose to identify the patterns and the trends of these online hate speeches among young people. And we found out that, as will be presented after the break, that the hate speeches by themselves are excluded from the platform automatically for the research that is done on the social media itself. But then we have other results that we would like to invite you to hear also after the break on this specific part of the project. So the project had different type of outcomes, different type of activities. It was, of course, based on research, but it also had different types of outputs that are important for the prevention and awareness raising in general. We conducted an online survey for young people. So we had respondents between 17 years old and 21. We will share a little bit the results of this online survey in a minute. We also conducted 4 case studies, like a more in-depth interviews with young people who suffered online hate speech and hate speech in general. And then we had the video analysis on TikTok that I had explained already, training with professionals. We created an awareness raising campaign that will also be presented today. And of course, we have different research outputs, such as this infographic that, if you allow me, I will share with you. So this infographic resumes a little bit, and I hope you are seeing now a different window, more colorful one. This is the first page of the infographic that will be published online in the website of the project. So this is a resume of some of the research findings of the Social Haters Project, a little bit on what I have just explained in terms of the outputs expected and research we conducted. And in the second page, we have the number of participants in our online survey. So we had 505 participants. Most of them were people who identify themselves as a girl. The age of these participants were between 17 and 21 years old, with an average on 19 years old. Regarding the nationality, of course, the project was developed in Portugal. It was expected that the nationality more represented were Portuguese. It was the case, but we also had participants and students from other nationalities as well. And here we start the presenting of the results of the online survey. It was, in fact, the use of media was very present in lives of young people. Almost all use them daily or several times a day. And 79% of the respondents mentioned that have increased the use of the social media during the pandemic. So this was the first confirmation of one of our hypotheses. 54% of young people feel that they are safe on social media, but 34% feel that they are never or almost never safe around social media. And this is also because they believe, as they have mentioned in other questions of the online survey, that on social media, people feel more comfortable for saying what they want without thinking too much on the consequences of those discourses, especially also because, as we know, social media allows some sort of distance from the person who is being commented upon or talked upon. So in terms of online hate speech, we had an enormous percentage of respondents who mentioned that they have read or seen in videos some form of hate speech online. So this is the vast majority of the young people who participated in this research, and it's very concerning and really demonstrates how much present hate speech is on social media, despite all the efforts from the platforms, including TikTok, of reducing these type of discourses online. And I just would like to focus as well, and of course you will be sent this infographic as soon as it is released on the website. We will share with all the participants from the conference, not only the infographic, but the PowerPoint presentation. So you will have time to review all these. But I just would like to share this part that is experiences of self-reported victimization. So 91% of the young people reported to have read or seen hate speech online, but not related to them. But 22% of young people who responded to our questionnaire mentioned they were the target of these online hate speeches. And most of them were during the pandemic, and also a great part of them did not report these hate speeches, not to the police, not to anyone. So they keep these experiences to themselves and don't talk with others about it too much. And to further understand these quantitative results, we conducted some case studies as a pilot experience to further understand and to deeply understand the impacts of these hate speeches for these young people. And I will change again to the presentation, just to also have a visual impacts. And I will give the floor to my colleague, Olga, who will share with you the results of these case studies. Thank you, Olga.
Well, good morning to all of you. Thank you for being here. Well, I'm going to briefly present to you our case studies. We conducted interviews with 4 participants. They were mostly Portuguese. We had only a Brazilian participant. Well, one was a identified as a trans woman, another as a young trans boy, another as a young homosexual boy, and the 4th participant identified herself as a young girl. Our participants were mostly 17 years old. We had only one older participant with 19 years old, and they were mainly from Porto district. And currently they were high school students. Only one was also worker. So we conducted qualitative interviews with all these 4 participants, following a semi-structured interview script to ensure, of course, consistency in this process of data collection. Well, our script had 5 main dimensions, and they are in bold here in the slide. And regarding procedures, well, we selected, or we reached our participants through our online survey, where we asked them to leave their contact details if they were available for these interviews. The whole interviews occurred in an individual and face-to-face manner, following the informed consent, of course. The data were collected between February and April of this year, and the interviews took an average length of approximately 41 minutes. All of the interviews were audio recorded for later transcription and result analysis. And to this, for this purpose, we used the thematic analysis as proposed by Brown and Clark. Can you pass, Kathy, please? So regarding results, we came up with 6 main themes that are personal experiences with social networks, general perceptions and experiences regarding hate speech, personal perceptions and experiences regarding online hate speech, personal perceptions and experiences, but now regarding face-to-face or in-person hate speech, the impact of the pandemic on the use of social networks and also on hate speech and hate manifestations, and finally, the acknowledge of significant episodes of personal victimization, both virtual and in person. Well, given the time that we have to present these results, I think I will focus in the last 4. So I will not talk about the personal experiences with social networks or general perceptions regarding the hate speech, because as Katja said, you will be this presentation will be available, so you will have time to see it. Now I can pass more with a little more time. So Katja, I will ask you to go to the personal perceptions and experiences regarding online hate speech. It's following that dimension. Okay, it's now. So regarding these personal perceptions and experiences in relation to online hate speech, okay? It's important to note that all our participants admitted negative personal experiencing on social network for different reasons. These reasons were related in part to mental health problems, like depression, but also anorexia. Two participants told about reasons related to racism and the skin color. But it's very important to know that mostly the reasons related with these negative experiences are concerned issues related to sexuality. And this congregates different things like the humiliation and depreciation due to gender identity and sexual orientation, but also threats due to this gender identity and sexual orientation, and also, as told us by one participant, interactions that she, in this case, is considered sexually abusive. Okay, Kathy, please. It's important to note that these negative experiences related to sexuality were, according, of course, to our participants, more mainly promoted, also mostly promoted by strangers. Notwithstanding, some participants told us that some of these negative experiences were in fact promoted by people they know. Furthermore, these experiences did happen both through private message and or public comments. It's an important result also. And currently, some participants, notwithstanding that they have experiences of these negative experiences, but they say that in the time that we collected our data, so currently, their personal experience or personal victimization by manifestations of hate is infrequent. Well, another important result, if you can pass it, another important result in this theme regards the personal consequences for these experiences. All participants noted the high emotional distress that were caused by these experiences, but we came up also with the self-devaluation, low esteem, feelings of helplessness, and different fears, namely fears of future negative experience and consequent emotional distress, but also fear of persecution and physical aggression, and including murder. It was only one participant who told us that, but it is, of course, a very important result. Katja, I am so sorry, but if you can go on to the next slide. Thank you so much. It's important to note that it's the previous slide. We were talking about fear, and two participants said they had fear, but two others said they feel no fear of persecution or threats by the authors of hate speech. Katja, is not that slide, is one previous to that. I'm so sorry because I don't have the command.
Okay, I think now it's correct, sorry.
Not at all. Also, as consequences, participants talk about the difficulties in the intimate relationship. Here is a participant that talked us about anorexia, so it is very expected. And also the irritation and frustration at hate manifestations. On the contrary, we had only one, but a participant which admitted the absence of relevant consequences for personal well-being due to these negative experiences. Moving on, and another important result regarding this dimension is the development of coping strategies in the face of online negative experiences. And we found various forms of avoidance, namely avoiding views and thoughts about hate manifestations, avoiding social media to avoid derogatory comments, avoiding conversations with others about personal experience of hate, of online hate, avoiding potentially hateful people, so deleting them, and avoiding manifestation in the face of hateful content so as not to become the target, or a target of that hate. Moreover, in terms of development strategies, please, Katja, we also found talking with close ones so as to reduce the emotional distress. And another result that we think it's very, very important concerns the adoption of care in the use of social networks to avoid these hate manifestations. And participants talked mostly about the careful selection of content to publish, especially photos, but also the careful selection of where to post that content, because they think that different social networks allow to different kind of purposes and posts to publish. And then also another care was setting their social media profile as private. Also, in the development of coping strategies, please, Katja, only one participant, and that took our attention, only one admitted the personal experience of reporting people with negative comments. And on the other hand, 3 of our participants talked about the support they received from others, And they admitted some support from some people. However, one of them highlighted his perception of little effective support in the face of hate speech victimization, and we think that's another very important result. In terms of consequences for offenders, the participants talked about this, and they recognize the difficulty of effective punishment for those who express hate online, in particular when there is no police report. And finally, in this dimension, regarding what participants perceive as appropriate responses to reduce this online hate speech, well, we found the importance of the complaint or the report, but also there was a mention of the difficulty in this report. So participants mostly noted the need to improve conditions for this report, also the need and the importance of the education, and in fact they thought that education is the best way to prevent manifestations of hate, more than for example penalties or criminal justice responses. And indeed only one participant told us about the need for more appropriate penalties. Well, moving on to other dimension, the personal perceptions and experiences, but now related to in-person manifestations of hate. Let me tell you that we were not looking for this kind of experiences. We were focused on online experiences, but participants talked also about these in-person experiences and talked about these experiences as something very important. So we think we had, of course, to catch it. So regarding this dimension, first of all, most participants, 3 participants, admitted negative personal experiences now in face-to-face, or in person. 3 of them related these experiences with issues concerned with sexuality. One, in their words, one talked about the sexism, 2 talked about the discrimination by gender identity and sexual orientation, and 1 talked about the feeling of threat for being a trans woman. However, 2 participants admitted also that these negative personal experiences and in-person experiences were due to the skin color and racism, and they talked about bullying at school for racism. Thank you, Katia. 2 participants also admitted consequences of these negative experiences, negative in-person experiences, and particularly they highlighted the psychological damages due to these experiences. Katia, moving on to the impact. I'm sorry to be so quick, but in relation to the impact of the pandemic on the use of social networks and also on hate speech and hate manifestations, what we realized was that for all participants, the pandemic has this impact, and namely the pandemic brought an increase in online hate speech in general. They were not talking only about their personal experience, they were talking in general. In personal, they really admitted they have spent more time online since the pandemic, and 2 participants admitted that their personal experiences of hate in fact only occurred since the pandemic. In fact, 1 participant admitted that the use of social networks in his case only occurred since the pandemic. And now, really, I want to talk to you or to remark that our participants told us about significant episodes. This is same to say that they remember especially remarkable episodes of personal victimization by hate speech or hate manifestations, and both virtual and in person. This is slightly different because here we are talking about remarkable episodes. We're not talking about the whole episodes they had experienced, but only about the ones that really marked them. And so all participants admitted these remarkable or memorable episodes. Two of them related these episodes to, once again, gender identity and sexual orientation. But the other two related these remarkable personal episodes to mental health problems, as we saw. In one case, it was related to depression, and in the other case, it was related to anorexia. So these are our main results. I am very, very sorry to be so quick and not to be able to read some of these examples that I think that are very, very important, but we will make our presentation available. So, and we are of course available for any questions. So thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you once again for your presence. And now we will start with the second part of the presentations of our results in the Social Haters project. And in this second part, we will focus more on the TikTok content or videos analysis, our pilot study, and then we will talk a little bit about the prevention of online hate speech, namely the role of the school context in this prevention, and also we will talk with you a little bit about the training sessions. This second part will be conducted by me and my colleague Margarida Pacheco. I will share with you my screen. Just 1 minute, please. Can you see it clearly? Yes? Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, as a starting point of this presentation, I would like to clarify why we choose the TikTok as our target social media, because as you may know, this social media in specific has experiencing a fast growing in the late 2020 and then in 2021, and according to the information in the official website, the platform was achieved 1 billion of users in 2021. So it was a huge growing, especially and namely among young people. So that is why we choose the TikTok as our context for analysis. We call this study as a pilot study because it was pilot for many reasons, but mainly for us ourselves. It was our first time doing this kind of analysis in this context of social media. It was very challenging, but we think that we have some important results to share and reflect with you today. So, how we proceed in terms of methodology or steps. We started creating an account simulating hypothetical 18-year-old user here in Portugal. And we started to use the features, the search features in the platform to search for our videos, the videos that we were interested in. And which kind of videos? Because as Katia mentioned previously in the first part of the results, the presentation of the results, TikTok has been invested too much efforts and strategies to remove the videos that they consider that contain hate speech. So it was a little bit challenging for us to find this kind of content, fortunately, because it can mean that this kind of content has been successfully, in some cases, has been successfully removed from the platform. So then we focused on videos posted by young people on TikTok that were related to personal experiences of victimization by hate speech and or videos containing awareness-raising messages based on real events that can be personal or not, but in these videos, young people users appeal to the society to end the hate speech or to avoid hate speech in social media. And how we proceed in terms of search for these videos. As you can see, we established 3 groups of keywords for search, and you can note that we put the word Portugal in all the groups, but this was a strategic decision because, as you may know, Brazil and Portugal speaks Portuguese, and when we started to looking for the videos, considering that Brazil is currently the 3rd largest user market for this platform, having 74 million of users in 2021, we decided to put a hashtag or a keyword Portugal in our search. Of course, it may reflect and impact in our results because there are other videos that do not have this hashtag or this keyword in the description, but was a strategic movement, that a strategic choice that we need to take in order to find the specific videos. So we proceed with the search for group 1, searching for the keywords and hashtags related to hate, prejudice, and Portugal, and we were able to find 3 videos. And then we use haters, prejudice, and Portugal to find, and we were able to find 2 videos. And then we use haters, reply, and Portugal, because we noted that some young people use the hashtag reply to reply in the video some hate speech or some xenophobic attacks that they suffered, and then we use the reply keyword as a keyword for this 3rd group. Our interest was videos that was posted during the pandemic period, meaning that the pandemic period was March of 2020 until April 2022. So we find more than 10 videos that I need to explain a little bit. So we collected in a first approach approximately 20 videos during March and April of 2022, and all these videos were analyzed by 2 members of the team, and then applying our inclusion criteria, we ended up with 10 videos for analysis. I will try to move on. Okay, and how we analyzed all the material. We focus on one hand on the video itself, the content, the descriptions used, the keywords that were used, the type of hate speech that young people were talking about, the typologies, the main emotions during the videos, and also we analyzed the interactions, the total likes in each video. We counted the total shares, the total comments, and also the typologies of comments. And I apologize because it is in Portuguese in the right side of your screen. Tipologia dos comentários means that typologies of comments, and we separated the comments in two main typologies. One, the positive comments, meaning that kind of comment there has an empowerment message, positive, transmits some supportive and positive attitudes, and then we have the negative ones, when some people reflect then the prejudice, the hate speech also. And I will share both with you the analysis of the contents of the videos and then the typologies of comments. Here I bring some just a starting point for our reflection, because when we were analyzing the videos, we also analyzed the description and the hashtags that the people use, not only the hashtags that compose our three groups, but also other hashtags. And even though it is in Portuguese, we can see here, and I will translate it to you, we have some important messages in the hashtags. For example, no to the prejudice, and also the Black people lives matter, and Portugal viral, for your page, because we noted that people use, to get more engagement, they use this hashtag for your page, so people could share in their pages, and also other kinds of words. And here we have some of the results regarding the typologies of hate speech that young people talk about in each of the videos. We are able to find 5 main typologies: skin color and ethnicity, nationality and origin, gender identity and sexual orientation, sex or gender, and physical appearance. And here I would like to highlight that for those who was in our previous session, the gender identity and sexual orientation is a topic for discussion. Young people are very willing to talk about the acceptance, about the tolerance, and this is reflected also in our results for the TikTok study. Regarding the comments, we have, fortunately, the majority of comments were empowering or positive comments, but we have also 12% of negative comments in the posts that we analyze. And here I give you some examples about the negative comments. For example, in the left side you have in Portuguese the comment, the print screen of the comment, but in the right side you have a brief explaining of the context, and then you have the translation in English of the comments. For example, in this first case, the person that wrote this comment, this negative comment, was referring to the young author of the video that was showing some bruise in his arm caused by an aggression suffering in a context of prejudice and hate speech in the offline, in person. And then the person wrote that, poor man, he put the cat in his arm just to do this. Meaning that it was a fake a fake attack, meaning that the author of this video was lying about the aggression. And the other examples that you can see, and then we have some examples of the positive comments, meaning those comments when people demonstrate support and a more positive, empowering attitude. In this first one, for example, and before talk about the content, if you note in the previous slide, when we have the negative comments, we have a very few number of likes in these comments. Even though just one like is sufficient, so we need to tackle this problem and we need to discuss. But fortunately, when we have more positive comments, we have more engagement, more interaction among the other users of the platform. And also we have more responses. Of course, here we only have some examples, but when we go to our table that we constructed with all the positive comments, some positive comments has a several number of replies. So this can be a positive result for us, but we will talk a little bit later about this. Regarding some reflections and some final considerations in our results. As we highlighted in our background research and our literature review, young people use or are willing to use the social media context to exercise what authors called as a participatory culture, when they feel they are constructing their own space. They have voice. They are. I'm not sure if this word exists in English, but protagonist is an existent word in English. They are playing an active role in their constructing their culture, their participatory culture. Sorry. And among the analyzed typologies of hate speech, we could note that gender, as I previously mentioned, that gender identity and sexual orientation were the most discussed typologies, both through the personal experiences and also both regarding the awareness raising, the society's awareness raising on this issue. So it is important here to reflect and to mention that the fact that the transgender people are more vulnerable on online hate speech than heterosexual cisgender individuals. Another important result is the openness to discussion of important topics or themes from a political and social point of view. And this confirms what the literature has previously mentioned about the role or the positive role of the social media. And here we have an observation that, of course, social media has a dark side, but it has also a positive side. And if we can consider a positive side, we can see that they are trying, young people are trying in these videos, are trying to promote engagement of others, other users and the other young people regarding the issues that are in the agenda today, as we saw in the typologies of hate speech discourse. And as I previously mentioned it to you, the interaction through comments, even though we had 12% of negative comments identify, the positive comments were those that showed the greatest potential for interaction. Of course, we have some important and relevant limitations in this study, and we were reflecting about this previously, namely the hashtag that we used for searching the content, the word Portugal was an important limitation. Of course, we only analyzed 10 videos, because when we started with some group of keywords, we started to search for the videos. When we start to find the videos that were previous to the pandemic, we stopped to search and started with another group. So maybe we can find other videos, but in this case, we are able to analyze 10. So I think that I am extending myself in this explanation. I will now give the floor to Margarida, and she will talk to you a little bit about the online hate speech among youth and the role of the prevention in the schools and also the training session. Margarida, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Camila. Good morning, everyone. Like Camila said, I'm going to talk about a little bit about online hate speech among youth and the role of prevention in schools. Camila, can you please put another slide? Thank you. So, to prevent violence as online hate speech with children and youth, you need first of all to promote human rights, equality, and citizenship. After you reflect with students these themes, you need to talk about and reflect stereotypes and prejudice. But it's important to talk these themes with an intersectional approach. All persons have multiple characteristics, for example, gender identity, sexual orientation, nationality, like others. For some people, these characteristics are considered privilege in some situations, but for other people, these characteristics can be a discrimination factor. We can talk about violence without talk about privilege. To prevent online hate speech, we need to talk about the prejudices that are in this hate speech. So it's important to talk with children and youth, not just violence, but communication, respect, human rights, equality, and other things. For example, with children in kindergarten, we can talk about communication, about stereotypes, about prejudice, and you can talk about these themes with youth in high school too. But our language and our approach need to be a little different. As education and prevention techniques, you need to reflect about pedagogical methodologies. You need to have participatory and reflective methodology to empower children and youth, for them to have the capacity to reflect, to think, to change and act on issues related to equality, respect and citizenship, and of course, human rights. You believe, and when I say we, I'm talking about, of course, Camila and Katia José Magalhães, but we talk about UMAR's prevention teams too. We believe to prevent violence in schools, we need to have whole school approach. This methodology defends that it's important to involvement all education community, like family, teachers and assistants, and of course, prevention technician. Camila, can you please? In violence prevention, you have to develop project methodology. This methodology places students, like is in this slide, students at the center of their learning education process. You need to have creative pedagogical tools. And when I'm saying creative pedagogical tools, I'm talking about art, internet, social media, movies, TV shows, podcasts, YouTube channels, for example, video games and others. You need to think outside the box and help students create significant learnings. For that, you have to talk about themes that children like and themes they talk with their family, with their peers and with their friends. You need to have a holistic curriculum, like you are talking about this all time, holistic curriculum to ensure the intersubjectivities between different forms of knowledge. Camila, please. In summary, the children and youth need to be the protagonists in their education process, but for that, they need to have the knowledge about social problems like sexuality, sexual violence, gender violence, homophobia, transphobia, racism, and others. These themes are so important to talk about with students, but sometimes the Portuguese schools don't give the importance as they give to other subjects in their curriculum. But knowledge alone don't change the behaviors of children and youth. They need to reflect and discuss these themes with their peers and with people they trust. These are the three moments essentials to have the education and changing process of students: protagonism, knowledge, reflection, and with these three moments, we believe that we're going to be a change in their behaviors. Please, Camila. It's impossible to talk about prevention of violence without talk about ethical and pedagogical issues. To talk about prevention, we need to talk about the school approach, the technician approach. You need to understand that every student is different, and to be careful the way you talk with them, and use inclusive and non-discriminatory language. You need to have empathy and trust in situations of violence. For the children and youth, talk about the situations, you need to have trust, of course. Work in schools, you need to have in mind that students have different emotions and moods, and you need to accept them. It's important to create creative pedagogical strategies, like I said before in the presentation. Before I finish this part about prevention, it's important to talk two things. Never blame the victims of violence, of course, and we need to have always an evaluation. Without evaluation, you don't have education process. Evaluation about our methodologies, about our education methodologies, and now about our practice as educational technician. Of course, prevention, we have all morning to talk, we don't have all morning to talk about this theme, but of course, for us, we believe that prevention is the key to prevent prevention in schools with children and youth. It's key to prevent online hate speech and hate speech in general. Like I said before in our presentation, me and Camila, you believe in old school approach. So in our investigation project, Social Haters, we thought that it was important to do a training section with educational technician. In this project, you had one training section with the education technician. This training section was online with 20 participants in all Portugal, in all districts of Portugal, in cities, and had 50 hours long. Just to finish, I'm going to just talk about a little bit about the many topics of our training section. First of all, we talked about contextualization of concepts, stereotypes, prejudice, discrimination, and violence. Our second theme was online hate speech. We talk about online hate speech in Portugal, prevalence, dynamics, and patterns. You talk about prevention of online hate speech among young people. And last of all, we talk about ethical and pedagogical issues for prevention and intervention in online hate speech and social environment. Of course, when you talk about online hate speech and talk about prevention, we need to talk about schools, and we thought that was important to finish this morning before I pass the floor to Camila to talk about the campaign. But school is the best context to have this prevention with children and youth. But you need to think that online context is important too. It is because of that we in our project we are going to do an online campaign that Camila is going to explain. Thank you, Camila.
Thank you, Margarida. Thank you for explaining so well the training session that finished yesterday. I have to say was quite challenging, but was very exciting, and we were very fortunate to have such a vibrant team, such very interesting people in these training sessions. And as Margarida mentioned, we need to target the online context also, and we need to target the young people, because we the main theme of this project is the online hate speech among young people. So we were thinking about what could we do to get the message to them, and how was the best strategy. And here we think about simple message, and we think about share some results and data from our project, especially when we talk about the Portuguese context, because we conducted a survey an online survey that has, as Katia presented to you, very important results. And also we had the case studies that Olga presented in the previous session. So how we could share these results with young people, because we know that sometimes the academic outputs do not find this public, because they are so young, and sometimes they do not have the patience to read an entire report about hate speech online. But if we change this report in a more attractive way, and we change this data, and we be able to put this information in the social media format, then they could read, they could reflect. And we thought specifically that we will present to you in the Instagram format, because Instagram was, of course, we will be able to share in all of the social medias, but we will present to you the Instagram format for posting, because we found in our quantitative study, in our survey, that the Instagram is the most used social media among young people in Portugal. So we target a little bit more in this first step the Instagram format, and we developed all the campaign promoting the hashtag #NoNet for hate. And how we transmit, we share the message. We will start with a first image promoting the hashtag, and then we will have some results, as you can see in the right side of your computer, that we will have some results of our survey, and then we can end with a main message, meaning that how young people can do to break the hate speech cycles in social media. Do you know that in Portugal we have 91% of young people read or saw hate speech on social media? What you can do? And then we ended up with a main message, not sharing hateful posts. Another example we have here, you can see more clearly the distribution. A first image promoting the hashtag, and then we have a quote from the open questions in the questionnaire. So we have a young people sharing his own experience about the consequences and the impact of hate speech online, and how you can do to prevent, to break this cycle. What you can do, you can report and contradict the hateful posts. Another example we have here, we have again the hashtag in the first image, and then we have some piece of information, because we know, and namely now after conducting this intensive research work, we know that hate speech and disinformation or misinformation or fake news are walking together hand by hand. So sometimes we need to promote knowledge. We need to promote the correct knowledge, the correct source for knowledge. And in this case, we did this. We promote our hashtag, and then we share a piece, just a piece, because it is a social media post. So we share a piece of information, and then we call the attention of the young people to stay informed about, correctly informed about hate speech and how you can do to prevent. Our idea is to have all these templates in our website in editable format, so people can download the templates and then can use to spread their message. Imagine if you are from the UK and you want to post here in this post the percentages of UK regarding the reality in the UK. So you can put here you can adapt the content. So we will work on this, is the next step. And I think that is it. I will stop to share my screen just before stop to share. I would like to share with you that we have our social media platforms. We have our Instagram. If you want to take part in our online campaign, so give us a like in the Instagram, and you can share you can see all the content that we have in the social media. If you have any doubts and concerns, or if you want to share any ideas, if you saw these templates and you think about other ideas, you can share with us using our email address. So thank you very much once again.